2:05 a.m. Out on the dark sea, a cold wind lashes across the deck like a thin blade. A massive oil tanker moves silently forward, its hull as heavy as a steel city. Rows of deck lights casting a pale yellow glow onto the water. This should have been a routine watch engine speeding steadily like a heartbeat, waves striking the side in a rhythm so familiar you could almost doze off. But then, right at that moment, something cuts through the calm. On the observation screen, a few small bright dots appear at the edge of the picture. At first, they look like interference, like dust on glass. Then, they move. Fast. On purpose. The radar watch leans in close, his hand tightening around a cup of cold coffee without realizing it. In his headset, his voice drops tighter, sharper. Contacts closing in. Multiple contacts. The alarm sounds. Not the kind from drills, but the kind that makes your stomach clench. Red lights flash. Boots pound on metal stairs. Steel doors snap open and slam shut. Up on the bridge, the captain rushes in, eyes scanning the screen before he looks straight toward the bow. Outside is nothing but black night, yet that blackness is moving. Small skiffs, low to the surface, using waves and darkness to slip into the tanker's blind spots. They don't need to be stronger than the ship. They only need to be fast enough, bold enough, and ruthless enough with time. Because once they latch on to the side, this giant becomes a tight, twisting maze where a few dozen people must figure out how to stay alive. But what makes this terrifying isn't just that the ship is under attack. It's the rules of the moment. This vessel carries oil. A lot of oil. Enough to turn the sea into hell if even a single spark happens in the wrong place. In situations like this, a weapon can become the most dangerous thing on board. You might drive intruders off the deck, yet one stray shot, one burst of friction, one panicked mistake, and everyone pays with the ship, the ocean, and human lives. The captain understands that. He doesn't shout fire. He doesn't shout fight back. His voice presses down, clear and final, like nails hammered into the air. No gunfire, no sparks. Activate the shelter procedure. A young crewman stands in a corridor, hearing the order, his hands turning ice cold. He's heard stories about pirates before, but hearing is nothing like seeing shadows appear on the deck under flickering yellow lights. He sees a grappling ladder hook onto the side, hears metal scrape against steel, and in that instant he understands. From now on, every sound is a signal. Footsteps running, a lock clicking, a radio hissing, a breath swallowed too quickly. Every noise is a question. Where are they? What do they want? How close are they now? The captain doesn't try to reclaim the deck through force. He shifts the ship into a different kind of defense. Strange, but effective. Turning silence into a weapon. On some modern vessels, there is a fortified refuge called a citadel. A secure room where the crew can retreat, lock multiple layers, maintain emergency communications, and wait for rescue. It isn't a bunker from an action movie. It's the last option when you can't turn a civilian ship into a warship and you can't let panic turn an incident into a disaster. They rush toward it, seal internal doors, shut down what they can, check communications, check head count. One by one, they squeeze into that tight space, carrying the only thing still under their control: discipline and time. Outside, the intruders start testing the ship. Not the Citadel door right away, but other doors, other access points, as if probing the vessel, watching for a reaction. There is no gunfire, no gore, something worse. Uncertainty. You can't see them clearly, but you can hear them. You don't know how many there are, but you can feel them getting closer. On the bridge, the captain looks at the clock. Deep in the ship, someone else looks at the clock too. Time begins to take shape like a tightening noose. And then, inside the Citadel, the radio catches a line. A voice tries to stay steady but can't hide the strain. They've sent a distress call. They need to be heard. They must be heard. Because if not, this steel room is just a sealed box in the middle of the ocean, where hope is measured in backup batteries, oxygen, and endurance. The captain speaks softly, as if sound itself could guide danger. Stay silent. Hold comms. We wait. Outside, metal scrapes again, dry and sharp like someone testing a tool against the ship's body. For a moment, everyone stops breathing. This is no longer about who is stronger. This is about who can stay calm longer. A tanker in the night. A crew locked inside a steel room. And outside, unseen figures searching for a way to force that door open. The wind keeps blowing. The waves keep striking. But inside the ship, time has shifted into a different rhythm. They may have only 90 minutes. Maybe less. And one question hangs in the air like a blade. Did anyone, somewhere in that black night, hear their signal? 2:05 a.m. Inside the Citadel, emergency lights wash over faces drained by lack of sleep. There are no windows here. No horizon, only the hum of ventilation and the occasional hiss of the radio like a thin thread tying them to the outside world. Beyond the steel, someone is still moving on deck. But in here, the most frightening thing is waiting. And to understand why a ship this enormous would hide inside its own body, you have to look at the bigger picture. Shipping lanes, risk zones, and the unspoken rules of life at sea. This video analyzes maritime safety and the unfolding situation. It does not encourage violence or war. On a map, the ocean looks like one big blue surface. In reality, it has invisible highways routes that cargo ships and tankers cross every day through narrow straits, busy corridors, and stretches where patrols aren't always close enough to respond instantly. A civilian ship isn't a warship. It wasn't built to fight. It was built to carry cargo, keep schedule, save fuel, and endure storms. But that civilian nature becomes a vulnerability when danger appears too fast. And a huge ship can't pivot on a dime, not because it is weak, but because of inertia. A few minutes of hesitation can be enough for a situation to slip beyond control. Enough for everyone on board to understand that every decision now has a price. In incidents like this, the deeper objective is often not the cargo. It's control over people. If a crew is forced onto the deck, threatened into obedience, the ship becomes a hostage. That is why the maritime industry learned a harsh lesson. Sometimes the best defense isn't confrontation. It's making the ship impossible to use. Take away control of the crew, and you take away the attacker's biggest advantage. The Citadel was born from that logic. A citadel is a reinforced refuge space deep inside the ship, where the crew can gather, lock down, maintain emergency communications, monitor safety systems, and wait for assistance. It is not magic. It doesn't turn a tanker into an invincible fortress. It simply buys time, and at sea, time is the most expensive thing you can own. The Citadel lets the crew do one simple, decisive act. Refuse to be forced into opening doors. Refuse to be turned into a tool for controlling the vessel. Without hostages, the ship becomes a stubborn block of steel offshore, far harder to turn into a bargaining chip. But the price is psychological warfare. Locking the door means accepting that the rest of the ship is, for a while, no longer yours. You hear a metal door open and close in some distant compartment. You hear footsteps stop, then move again. You can't see them, so your mind creates a dozen scenarios. And if one person panics, the whole room can be pulled into that wave. That's why the hardest job inside the Citadel is not technical, it's human. Leadership becomes the act of keeping everyone's breathing from breaking apart. They check names on a list, keep voices steady, divide responsibilities so every person has something to focus on. One monitors the radio, one monitors backup power, one watches safety indicators, one calm, shaking hands. In war, people talk about firepower. In moments like this, the deciding factor can be discipline. With a tanker, there's another layer of danger that forces every choice to be weighed like medicine. Oil is not just cargo. It becomes a disaster risk if anything ignites. One mistake can push the event beyond rescue, turning the sea into a tragedy for people and for the environment. That is why the order "no gunfire" isn't weakness. It's the discipline of someone who understands what the ship carries. It is the decision not to turn danger into something irreversible. Here, calm is sometimes the strongest shield because it prevents the most lethal threat of all, a snap reaction that leads to a fatal error. Outside, attackers don't always need to be loud. Sometimes, they only need to be present long enough. They test doors, create noises in different areas to apply pressure, wait for the people inside to make a mistake. They know time can work for them if the crew grows exhausted, loses discipline, or slips into despair. That makes every minute inside the Citadel mean two things. The bad meaning is that backup power drains, water runs down, endurance fades. The good meaning is that rescue forces out there gain more time to move closer, coordinate, and choose the safest way to approach. That's why the moment the radio catches a reply, even for seconds, the room feels electricity move through it. Not because they are guaranteed rescue, but because they know they are still being heard. A distress call is more than a plea. It's proof the Citadel is holding. The crew is disciplined. The ship has not become a catastrophe. Somewhere out there, a coordination center may have just seen a red alert light up. A patrol vessel may have changed course. A watch officer may have sat upright because they understand. A ship is trapped in the night, and every passing minute has a cost. But the instant hope appears, a colder question follows. If someone heard them, how fast can help arrive? At sea, distance isn't measured in kilometers, it's measured in minutes. And in a mission where the rule is, avoid igniting a disaster, a rescue cannot be loud or reckless. It becomes a precision problem, breath-tightening, where every decision balances saving people with preventing catastrophe. Inside the Citadel, the captain checks the clock again, leans toward the microphone, and speaks slowly and clearly, as if planting each word into the darkness. They are still safe, still holding the door, still waiting. And at that exact moment, on the other side of the night, a chain reaction begins to move. On the other side of the darkness, the moment the distress signal reaches the system, a small beep sounds in the operations center, tiny, yet strong enough to change the room's breathing. On the main screen, a blinking point is circled with cold data, ship type, coordinates, heading, speed. The watch officer looks up, one hand to the headset, eyes on the duty commander. In seconds, questions race like electricity. How many crew are on board? Did they reach the Citadel in time? Are communications still alive? And most crucially, what is the ship carrying? When the word tanker becomes clear, nobody has to say it out loud. Everyone understands. This is not only rescue. This is disaster prevention. The commander speaks with no drama, only control. Activate emergency support procedure. Priority: preserve life, minimize any risk of ignition. This is the kind of mission where one wrong step can turn rescue into an accident. Not from lack of courage, but because of constraints. A tanker is not a stage for loud heroics. One spark in the wrong place, one panicked misstep, and the situation can become something no one can stop. An officer steps closer to the digital map and zooms in. Current distance. Even at best approach speed, we still need time. The commander doesn't hesitate. Contact the nearest units. Assemble by safest approach. And repeat to everyone. This is a tanker. No reckless moves. In missions like this, the most important order is sometimes not engage, but restrain. Right then, another radio channel comes alive. From the ship offshore, a weak voice is still there, rough with tension, trying to stay calm, it reports. The crew is inside the Citadel. The door is locked. Communications are holding. Backup power is active. The operations center seems to exhale. If the Citadel is intact, the chance of saving everyone rises sharply. The commander answers, short and steady, like setting an anchor for people drifting in fear. Hold the door. Keep silent. Don't take risks. We're coming, but we're coming at seas both hope and pressure. Time does not stop. Outside, the intruders may be probing routes, trying to force the door, or simply waiting until exhaustion cracks discipline. When you face the clock, you understand why people call this kind of mission breathless. Not because of gunfire, but because every minute weighs something. As units begin to converge, a quick briefing happens on secure comms. No one speaks long. The commander opens with a line that quiets everyone. A supertanker, and we cannot fire indiscriminately. The air tightens. That sentence isn't for effect. It is the rule of the mission. Every decision must pass one filter. Crew safety, ship safety, ocean safety. A plan forms like assembling fragile pieces. The objective is not to display strength. The objective is control without ignition. They split roles into layers. One layer holds distance to observe. One layer closes in to assess risk. One layer stays ready to support if required. Everything revolves around one principle. Do not create stimuli that push the situation past the edge. No escalation, no panic, no move that turns a civilian ship into a disaster site. The main goal is to restore lawful control in the least risky way possible. Offshore, the sky remains black, wind cutting, but as rescue vessels draw nearer, the sea becomes clearer beneath navigation lights. Thin bands of brightness stretch across the waves like silver veins. In those moments, you see the ocean for what it is. Not romantic, not forgiving. It leaves no room for mistakes. It is wide and flat, meaning every action can be exposed. It is dark and cold, meaning fear can grow fast. On the tanker, inside the Citadel, time moves differently. No one knows exactly how far help is, but everyone feels the pressure rising. Backup power is not infinite. Air is not infinite. And most of all, human endurance is not infinite. Inside, the captain keeps his voice low and even, giving instructions like he's holding the room's heartbeat together. Check head count. Maintain comms. No one acts alone. No one opens the door for any reason. Someone's hands tremble. Someone bites their lips white. But when they hear the captain's steady tone, they cling to it like a rope. A message arrives from coordination. Position confirmed. Hold steady. Units approaching within a limited window. The exact number doesn't need to be shouted to sound dramatic. Everyone already understands. At sea, if this drags too long, everything gets worse. The commander repeats to the units, avoid ignition risk at all costs. Do nothing that turns the ship into a hot spot. Anyone expecting a rescue to look like an action movie faces the opposite truth here. Real rescue is self-control. When they close enough, they begin to observe the ship's structure more clearly. Key areas, access routes, high-risk zones. They do not rush in. They assess each step. Because one wrong sound, one wrong signal, could panic the crew inside or provoke reckless behavior outside. The biggest objective now is lowering the temperature of the situation while building control layer by layer. In the commander's headset, short reports keep flowing like a pulse. Activity observed on deck. No ignition indicators. Citadel still in contact. Crew accounted for. Each report is a small brick building confidence that there is still time. But every brick comes with another question. What if they try to force the Citadel? What if systems are damaged? What if pressure tactics escalate? The commander keeps his voice cold and precise, refusing to let emotion bend the plan. No rash action. Preserve life. Control the scene in layers. For long stretches, what takes your breath away is not impact. It's silence between reports. Silence means something is happening, but no one is certain yet. Silence means someone is moving in the dark. Silence means a decision is being weighed. At one point, the commander says something simple, heavy as stone. We bring them out safely. There is no second option. In this mission, winning is not making someone afraid. Winning is bringing innocent people back and keeping the ship and the sea from becoming a catastrophe. Then a new report arrives. Clearer, like someone has finally seen what they've been waiting for. Signal from the Citadel. They are ready to open on confirmed safety. The commander answers immediately, emphasizing every word. Confirmed. Open only on direct instruction. We are securing the area. Inside the Citadel. The captain hears that, closes his eyes for a second, fighting back relief, yet he does not allow anyone to relax. He knows the final minutes are often the most dangerous, because people start believing it's over. Finally, after cross-checks and long silences that feel endless, the Citadel door begins to move. Not a loud, cinematic swing, just a mechanical click, a soft hinge sound, and a thin line of light cutting into darkness. Salty air spills in. Faces appear exhausted, but alive. The first person steps out trembling, not from cold, but because the body is finally allowed to inhale deeply. Then the second. The third, one by one. The silence is strange, as if one word could break this fragile moment. Outside, the commander hears the final confirmation and replies with only one short human sentence. They're out. And at that moment, the story shifts. Because saving people is only one part. Behind the night's shadows remains a question no one has answered yet. Who is behind it? And why did a civilian ship have to endure a night where every minute could have been the line between survival and catastrophe? The moment the steel door closes behind the last person, the ship seems to exhale a breath it has held since the alarm first sounded. But if you think that moment is the end, real life at sea is very different. The minutes right after everyone leaves the Citadel are often the most dangerous, because human bodies begin to loosen while the situation may not yet be fully controlled. The night is still black, the wind still cuts, and on deck, every footstep must land as if on thin glass, where one mistake could drag the story back to the edge. The rescue commander doesn't declare victory. He gives orders in a steady, almost cold voice. Compartment by compartment, safety checks, system confirmations, ensuring there is no risk of a developing incident. With a tanker, safety is not a slogan. It is the boundary between life and catastrophe. On monitoring screens, data is cross-checked again. Temperatures in sensitive areas, pipeline pressure, power stability, fire suppression readiness. Everything must be stable before anyone is allowed to breathe out. At the bow, a crewman leans on the rail, hands shaking from exhaustion. He looks into the dark sea and sees only distant lights from support units. No gunfire, no chaotic movie scene, only something more real. You survived a night where you fought fear inside your own mind, minute by minute. Another man sits on the steel deck with his back against a bulkhead, eyes closed, lips moving as if recounting names on the list, making sure no one was left behind. Seafarers understand. There are victories that need no cheering because bringing everyone home is already everything. The captain is the last to step out of the Citadel. He doesn't run. He walks slowly, as if needing to confirm this deck is truly his ship again, not a nightmare. He looks up at the bridge, the deck lights still burning, the vessel still afloat, still moving. In that moment, winning isn't a heroic word. Winning means the tanker did not become a disaster. and those ordinary workers still have the chance to call home. But the story doesn't stay in emotion. Once the crew's safety is confirmed, the next phase begins colder, sharper, documenting and collecting traces. This is where a documentary becomes precise. The commander demands a full timeline. First detection, alarm activation,
We didn't win by firepower.
Citadel lockdown, distress call transmission, unit arrival, area secured, door opening. These timestamps aren't just for telling a story. They're for lessons, so the next ship in another ocean can survive because of what these numbers teach. On deck, they record what remains. A length of rope, fresh scrape marks on the hull, small items left behind,
Undefined, Captain.
no sensational
Running
violence,
diagnostics now.
no glorified confrontation, only simple facts. Someone boarded, someone tried to seize control, and they failed because the crew refused to give them the most valuable thing, people. The Citadel wasn't a magical steel room. It was a strategic choice. And tonight, it proved its worth. Back at the temporary command station, the commander speaks into the channel, voice low. We did not win by firepower. We won by discipline and coordination. That sentence sounds simple, but it runs against human instinct. When fear hits, instinct pushes you to react hard, to do something fast, to feel control. But in high-risk situations, a hard reaction can be what kills everyone. Discipline is what saves lives. Then, amid procedures and confirmations, a small detail appears like a thorn in the calm that has just returned. During communications checks, they notice an anomaly, a device configured in a way that doesn't look improvised. You don't need the technical specifics to understand the meaning. There are signs this was not entirely isolated. That detail changes the color of the story. If this wasn't purely random, then behind it, there may be a network information, timing, routes, and blind spots most people never see. The captain hears the report, his eyes darkening. He understands. They escaped tonight, but the sea won't stay quiet tomorrow. People who attack ships learn fast. They observe how crews respond, how citadels are used, how distress calls are sent, how help arrives and they adapt. If we tell this only as a victory, viewers feel relief and forget. But if we treat it as a lesson, viewers understand why maritime security is a race that never stops. So in the final minutes of this section, the story shifts from a night of survival to aftermath and legacy. At sea, every incident leaves a scar. Shipping companies review procedures, crews retrain. How to retreat into the Citadel, how to maintain silence, how to keep communications alive. Routes may be adjusted to reduce risk, even if that means longer voyages and higher cost. And most importantly, survivors carry an experience no one wants twice. Being hunted in open water, where your only weapons are a steel door, and your ability to stay calm. But just as everything seems to settle, the commander looks at the map, places a hand on the table, and says one line that silences the room. We need answers. Not answers in the form of revenge, but answers about origin, timing, target selection, and the support chain behind the incident. Because if you never expose what lies beneath the surface, tonight is just luck and no system survives on luck forever. The night hasn't ended in this story. It has only shifted into a new chapter where the most dangerous thing is no longer the figures on deck, but the invisible layer behind them. Networks, information, and the gaps in maritime security that even the modern world still struggles to close. As the horizon begins to pale, the oil tanker keeps moving across the sea like a block of steel that has just escaped a night no one wants to remember. There are no cheers, no feeling of victory, like in the movies. Only exhausted faces, hands still trembling slightly as they hold a cup of water, and one cold truth. Last night, a single small mistake could have turned everything the other way. The most frightening part of this story isn't the confrontation itself. It's the boundary so thin you can't even see it. An oil tanker is not just a vessel. It carries millions of liters of fuel. It carries environmental risk. It carries the lives of its crew. And it carries the possibility of catastrophe if control is lost. That's why the most important decision that night wasn't the strongest decision, it was the right one. The first lesson fits into a single word: the Citadel. A steel room that seems simple, yet it pulled the entire ship back from the edge. The crew didn't need to win a direct clash. They only had to refuse to hand over the most valuable thing: control over human beings. When they locked the door, maintained communications, and held discipline, they bought the most expensive currency at sea time. And once you have time, the chance to live begins to appear. The second lesson is the hardest thing for human instinct: restraint. In fear, everyone wants to react fast and hard, just to feel like they still have control. But on an oil tanker, a strong reaction can be the shortest path to disaster.
Lesson 2.
Courage that night was not
Restraint
recklessness.
is greater than reflex.
Courage was staying
Steady
calm
as
while
she
everything
goes.
outside tried to drag you into panic. The third lesson is coordination and procedure. At sea, distance isn't measured in kilometers, it's measured in minutes. A distress signal was heard. Units were coordinated. An approach plan was built in layers, and every step aimed to protect lives and reduce risk to the lowest possible level. This is a kind of real-world victory. Not loud, not dramatic, but it saves people and prevents the worst outcome. And when everything finally settles, the biggest question isn't who was stronger. The biggest question is, why did it happen? Why they chose that ship? Why they appeared at that exact time? And whether behind it was only a single group or a wider network that feeds on gaps along shipping lanes that look safe on the surface. If you were the commander in that situation, what would you choose? React immediately to retake the deck, or lock down the Citadel, hold absolute discipline, and wait for rescue in silence? Answer honestly in the comments, because your choice reveals what you trust when you fall into a true life or death boundary. And if you want to hear more stories about pirates from Somalia to the hijackings that shook the world, breathless rescues, and command decisions hanging by a thread, then subscribe to Death Zone and turn on notifications. Every week, we'll open a new case file, told like a film, but always grounded in the truth, so you can understand this. Out there, in the dark ocean, sometimes one correct decision can save an entire ship.